Hello there, you're watching World News program on ALT24 News with me, Madam Zian, to the headlines. Algeria expresses surprise at the EU's decision to launch arbitration proceedings over bilateral partnership agreements, stressing that the course of consultations does not justify the sudden interruption of dialogue. Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf calls for a partnership council meeting as soon as possible. Coming up next, following Israeli attacks, the Syrian president says the Zionist entity seeks to turn Syria into a conflict zone. Syrian authorities announced the complete withdrawal of security forces from Sweden amid international condemnation of Israel's strikes. Next, dozens of martyrs and wounded in ongoing Israeli massacres in Gaza. An Israeli airstrike on a Catholic church in Gaza City leaves several casualties. The Israeli army admits injury of its soldiers during battles in the Strip. And in Morocco, political parties describe appointment of Israeli economic attaché in Rabat as step towards plundering people's resources and fueling regional hostility. First in our news, the Algerian Minister of State in charge of Foreign and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, expressed in an official letter addressed to the High Representative of the European Union, Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Vice President of the European Commission, Kaja Kallas, Algeria's surprise at the European decision to open arbitration procedures regarding what were deemed restrictions on trade and investment. A statement from the Algerian Foreign Ministry indicated that the hasty unilateral decision to end the consultation phase and open arbitration was made despite only 2 consultation sessions being held within a short period of 2 months only, and despite the fact that 6 of 8 disputed issues were being settled.
The Directorate General for Trade of the European Commission has notified the competent Algerian authorities of its decision to open arbitration proceedings regarding what it considers restriction on trade and investment, in violation of the association agreement between Algeria and the European Union. In response, the State Minister in charge of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, today sent an official letter on this matter to the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, Ms. Kaja Kallas. In his letter, the State Minister expressed the Algerian side's surprise at the hasty and unilateral European decision to end the consultation phase and launch the arbitration procedure, despite holding only 2 consultation sessions within a short period of no more than 2 months, and despite the fact that 6 of the 8 disputed issues were being resolved.
The Algerian Foreign Ministry also noted that Minister Attaf stressed in the official letter that the course of consultations, which took place in a constructive and calm atmosphere, justifies in no way whatsoever the sudden interruption of the dialogue. Let's have a listen.
Minister Attaf stressed that the course of the consultations, which took place in a constructive and calm atmosphere, justifies in no way whatsoever the sudden interruption of the dialogue, especially since the Algerian side presented practical proposals regarding the 2 remaining points, without receiving any official response from its European counterpart. Mr. Ahmed Attaf also pointed to the unilateral nature of this European endeavor, which he considered to be contrary to the spirit and text of the association agreement, particularly Article 92 and 100. He specifically expressed his regret that the European side acted as if the Association Council, the central decision-making body as part of the agreement, no longer existed.
Algerian State Minister Ahmed Attaf also recalled that evaluating the results of the consultations and making relevant decisions falls exclusively within the prerogatives of the Partnership Council, and no party may replace it.
The minister recalled that evaluating the results of the consultations and making relevant decisions falls exclusively within the prerogatives of the Partnership Council, and no party may replace it. However, this council has not been convened for 5 years, despite repeated and urgent requests from the Algerian side. This has deprived the 2 parties of a central institution framework, the purpose of which is to ensure a balanced development of the bilateral relationship on the one hand and to play a key role in resolving conflicts on the other.
And the Algerian Foreign Ministry indicated that Minister Attaf, in his capacity as chairman of the Partnership Council for the current year, called for a session of this council to be held as soon as possible, allowing both parties to conduct a comprehensive and balanced assessment of all concerns. Let's take a listen.
In view of this situation, and in his capacity as chairman of the Partnership Council for the current year, the State Minister called for a session of this council to be held as soon as possible, allowing both parties to conduct a comprehensive and balanced assessment of all concerns in respect for the legal provisions stipulated in the association agreement.
Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara said in a speech early Thursday that the Zionist entity sought to undermine the ceasefire if not for international mediation. Al-Shara explained in his address that since the fall of the former regime, the Zionist entity has been working to turn Syria into a land of conflict and to dismantle the unity of its people. The president added that Syria does not fear war and has prioritized the interests of its people over chaos.
نعيش في قلب معركة تهدف إلى حماية وحدة بلادنا.
We live in the heart of a battle aimed at protecting the unity of our country, the dignity of our people, and the steadfastness of our nation. Israel, which has been targeting our stability and creating discord among us since the fall of the former regime, is now seeking once again to transform our pure land into an arena of endless chaos. It seeks to dismantle the unity of our people and weaken our ability to move forward in the process of reconstruction and growth.
And Syrian authorities have completely withdrawn their security forces from Sweda province in southern Syria, according to Syrian media reports. This coincided with President Ahmed al-Shara's announcement tasking local factions and Druze religious leaders with maintaining security in the province. And following the Israeli attacks on Syria, widespread condemnation was issued by multiple countries. Turkey denounced the strikes as unacceptable and a threat to the entire region, affirming its support for Syria. Russia called them a grave violation of Syrian sovereignty and international law. Iran condemned what the blatant Israeli aggression, urging regional and international unity to stop it. Meanwhile, China rejected the attack, stressing respect for Syria's sovereignty and urging restraint. And the A3+ group condemned the Zionist airstrikes that targeted several areas in Syria, including the capital, Damascus, during a Security Council session convened by Algeria to discuss the latest developments in Syria. The representative of Sierra Leone to the United Nations, Michael Imran Kanu, made a statement on behalf of the A3+ group made up of Algeria, Somalia, Sierra Leone, and Guyana, where he condemned the Zionist attacks on Syria, stressing that they constitute a clear violation of international law, including the UN Charter.
We condemn the Israeli airstrikes that recently targeted multiple areas in Syria, including Syria's military staff command building, which was being used to temporarily house the Ministry of Defense, and locations in the vicinity of the presidential palace in Damascus. These acts further threaten an already fragile state. These attacks represent a clear violation of international law, including the United Nations Charter, particularly Article 2.4, which prohibits the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state or in any manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations and the principles of international humanitarian law.
And in occupied Palestinian territories, more than 40 were killed and others wounded in heavy Israeli airstrikes on several areas across the Gaza Strip since early Thursday morning. According to medical sources in Gaza, 41 bodies, including women and children, have so far been taken to hospitals following strikes on multiple cities in the Strip. The same sources confirm that people remain trapped under rubble in the streets, with civil defense teams unable to reach them. 10 aid security personnel were killed and others injured in an Israeli strike on the Tawam area in northern Gaza. The Gaza High Commission for Tribal Affairs condemned the attack, calling it a war crime against those safeguarding essential aid for the besieged Palestinian population.
We went to secure people's lives, and all of a sudden they started dropping bombs on us. We were waiting for aids, and they started bombing everybody. The Jews do not want security of people. They do not want stability and people receiving aid. All they want is chaos. Today we recorded more than 10 martyrs, almost 15 martyrs. We were next to the gate waiting for aid, and they targeted us.
Doctors at Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital in Gaza City said 2 women were killed and several others injured in an airstrike targeting the Catholic Church in the Strip. The Italian news agency reported that 6 people were critically wounded, including Father Gabriele Romanelli, who regularly updated the late Pope Francis on the war. The strike damaged the Holy Family Catholic Church, the only Catholic church in Gaza.
They were martyred due to this strike that targeted the Latin Church. As civil defense workers, we continue to appeal to the world and to all international organizations to protect civilians in Gaza. Among the victims were martyrs Saeed and Fumia, who lost their lives in this attack. We asked the world, why were they killed? They were civilians. It is the duty of the world to protect them and all civilians in Gaza. Our message is a humanitarian one. Today we bid farewell to 2 of our Christian brothers killed for no reason.
And Hebrew media acknowledged Thursday that 5 Israeli soldiers were injured in battles in Gaza City's Shuja'iyya neighborhood, 2 of them critically. The Israeli army confirmed that 2 paratroopers from the 202nd Battalion were seriously wounded in northern Gaza, while a reserve soldier from the Yalom Combat Engineering Unit sustained moderate injuries after unexploded ordnance detonated in central Gaza. The UNICEF reported that more than 17,000 Palestinian children have been killed in Gaza over the past 21 months, with 33,000 others injured. UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell told the UN Security Council that an average of 28 children are killed every day, adding that children are being killed and maimed while waiting for food and medicine.
An average of 28 children have been killed each day, the equivalent of an entire classroom. Consider that for a moment, a whole classroom of children killed every day for nearly 2 years. These children are not combatants. They are being killed and maimed as they line up for life-saving food and medicine.
The United Nations said that child malnutrition and famine rates reached their highest levels in Gaza last June. UN Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs Tom Fletcher told the Security Council that food supplies are running out rapidly and those trying to get food risk being shot.
Mr. President, we are beyond vocabulary to describe conditions in Gaza, so let me instead share facts. Food is running out. Those seeking it risk being shot. People are dying trying to feed their families. Field hospitals receive dead bodies, and medical workers hear stories firsthand from the injured, day after day after day. Starvation rates among children hit their highest levels in June, with over 5,800 girls and boys diagnosed as acutely malnourished. Last week, amid this hunger crisis, children and women were killed in a strike while waiting for the food supplements to keep them alive.
And Amnesty International described the EU's decision not to suspend its partnership agreement with Israel as a cruel and unlawful betrayal of the EU's principles and of human rights. Secretary General Agnès Calamard said in a statement that the refusal is a betrayal of the EU's founding values based on respect for international law and the fight against tyranny. The Justice and Development Party reiterated its firm opposition to normalization and to what it described as the Zionist infiltration of the country, demanding the closure of the liaison office in Rabat, the expulsion of its staff, and the cancellation of all agreements and relations with Israel. The Workers' Democratic Path Party denounced what it called the regime's deepening subservience and strengthening of its ties with Israel, describing the appointment of an economic attaché as a gateway for plundering Morocco's resources, infiltrating society, and fueling regional hostility. The Democratic Left Federation also called for the immediate termination of normalization with Israel and the cancellation of what it labeled shameful agreements, while demanding a ban on Israeli participation in any events organized in Morocco. Irish Foreign Minister Simon Harris reaffirmed Ireland's support for UN efforts to reach a just and lasting solution, guaranteeing the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination. In a written reply to a parliamentary question, Harris voiced hope that UN personal envoy efforts would help achieve such a solution. The Polisario representative in Ireland, Nafi Irayes, welcomed Ireland's pro-liberation stance, saying it stems from its own experience with occupation. He urged global solidarity with the Sahrawi cause and called for the urgent organization of a self-determination referendum.
And crucially, my party is...
Ireland's long-standing position towards Western Sahara is its full support for the UN-led process, including the United Nations mission for the referendum in Western Sahara, MINURSO. We welcome the visits and consultations he conducted in the region and the call made by the Security Council resolution for full cooperation with MINURSO, and we hope that the efforts will contribute to reaching a just and lasting political solution that guarantees the Sahrawi people their right to self-determination.
Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf met in Algiers with Sahrawi Foreign Minister Mohamed Salim Ould Khalid to discuss the latest developments in Western Sahara. According to the Algerian Foreign Ministry, the meeting focused on UN efforts to enable the Sahrawi people to exercise their inalienable and imprescriptible right to self-determination, as reaffirmed by UN General Assembly and Security Council resolutions. The ministers also discussed coordination on key African Union issues. And the 44th Annual General Assembly of Shatri Afrique Development Bank concluded in Algiers, approving financial accounts, renewing the board of directors, and presenting new funding strategies. Final recommendations emphasized learning from Algeria's housing and urban development experience, which has achieved self-sufficiency in local building materials, a key theme of the Assembly's discussions. And in other news, 69 people were killed overnight Wednesday to Thursday after a massive fire broke out at a shopping center in the city of Kut, south of the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. Iraqi media reported that the fire started in the newly opened Corniche hypermarket building in Kut and spread to all 5 floors of the structure. The Iraqi Ministry of Interior has ordered the formation of a high-level investigative committee headed by the minister's technical advisor, with the participation of the director of forensic evidence and several senior investigators and specialized technicians to determine the exact causes of the fire in Wasit province. In a statement, the ministry stressed it would not hesitate to hold accountable any party found negligent or responsible in adherence to justice and concern for citizens' safety, adding that the results of the full investigation will be announced once completed. And Russia rejected US President Donald Trump's ultimatum, giving Moscow 50 days to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine or face sanctions. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said Trump's decision to supply Ukraine with new missiles signaled a continuation of what she called the massacre and a rejection of peace initiatives.
After Washington's previously announced decision to suspend military supplies to the Kiev regime during the inspection of Pentagon warehouses, the U.S. made statements about their resumption. The consequences of such moves are yet to be assessed, but it can be said with certainty that the continuation of sending weapons to Ukraine wouldn't help. To put it mildly, bring about a peaceful settlement of the conflict, which the world community, including the West Wing, seemingly calls everyone for.
US President Donald Trump announced that his administration will soon reach a trade agreement with India regarding custom duties. The Trump administration is negotiating trade agreements for what Trump sees as better terms with trading partners in ways to reduce the US trade deficit before August 1st deadline, when the new tariffs will be implemented again on most US imports. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes tonight's bulletin. Thank you for watching, and stay updated with the latest developments on our websites and news platforms, everywhere on social media. It's available around the clock. Bye-bye for now.